राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ जयो गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ जयो गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ जयो गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ जय गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यमुना तीर वनचारी यमुना तीर वनचारी यमुना तीर वनचारी यमुना तीर जय राधा माधव जयो कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय गंधर्विका गिरिधारी गौर हरि जय गंधर्विका गिरिधारी गौर हरि जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जयो अनंत देव लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जयो अनंत देव जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जयो अनंत जय राधा दामोदर श्री राधे जय राधा दामोदर Prabhupada, Jaya युगधर्म हरिनाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की जय। जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। Thank you for coming. So daily we have this series where we talk about each shloka from Bhagavad Gita. So today the shloka is 2.71, chapter 2, 71st shloka. This is the second last shloka from the second chapter. We have about 72 shlokas. So far, if you see the first chapter, the Kauravas and Pandavas have assembled already for the war. So the Kaurava family and the Pandava family. So in between, Arjuna asked Lord Krishna, can you take me in between the assembled army people? I want to see who has come to fight. So Lord actually takes the chariot in between, and Arjuna is actually seeing who has come from Kauravas to actually fight him. So he sees his brothers, his uncles, his grandfather, and he's overwhelmed. And he's thinking, why? How can I kill them? They're all my relatives. And he's going through so many thoughts. He drops his Gandiva. And he tells Lord, no, I'm not going to fight. I don't think it's right. And he puts forward various reasons as to why he should not fight. So Lord is actually listening to him. So the first chapter, actually Lord doesn't speak at all. So it is Arjuna actually posting lots of questions to the Lord. And Lord is actually listening. There is a time when Arjuna actually tells, I'm going to renounce everything and go into the forest. Right? Lord doesn't say anything. So at last he wants answer from the Lord, so he surrenders to the Lord. Shishyasteham swadimam prapannam. So he says, I'm your Shishya now please tell me what I'm supposed to do. And that's when actually Lord starts telling him as to what he's supposed to do. So second chapter, Lord is actually telling about body and soul, the difference between body and soul, the characteristics of soul. There is a lot of various things that Lord talks about. And this little bit he talks about Karma Yoga as well. So today 2.71. So I'll talk about briefly about two shlokas that we finished in the past 2 days. So the question is about the past few shlokas. If you see the last 8 shlokas is about Arjuna is asking Lord about who is Sthita Prajna and what are his characteristics. How does he walk? How does he talk? How does he sleep? How does he sit? So Lord is actually telling what is the Sthita Prajna. Sthita Prajna is Sthita is steady. Prajna is consciousness. One who is steady in his consciousness. One who is steady in Krishna consciousness. Right? So he is Sthita Prajna. So what all he does. So initially, the last 2 shlokas, if you see, Lord has spoken about how there is when there is time. He's talking about sleeping time and awakening time. How is it different for the materialist and the spiritualist? Right? So time when the materialists sleep, that's when the spiritualists awaken. See. Qualitatively, if you see spiritualist and the materialist have similar kind of intelligence. Qualitatively, it's a little different because material people invest their intelligence into material aspects, while spiritualists actually invest their intelligence into spiritual activities. So it is directed in 2 different ways. So one is actually directed towards material aspects, one is actually investing into spiritual aspects. So spirit, there is a difference. So spirit comes over matter. So that's the difference. That's the qualitative difference. And also, the materialists never understand the kind of pleasure the transcendentalist or the spiritualist actually experience while he is rendering service to the Lord. Right? He can never understand as to what kind of pleasure they are experiencing. And the materialists also don't know that they are actually suffering the pangs of miseries while they're actually looking forward for all the sense enjoyment in the material world. So they don't know about that. So spiritualists and materialists are constantly fighting or condemning each other. Right? And then there is the last shloka 2.70, and where what happens to Sthita Prajna when there is a lot of desire. So there is an analogy given. Krishna says that like the river actually flows into the ocean, but the ocean remains calm. Right? So the river is actually compared to the incessant flow of desires. But it doesn't matter because the ocean is full in itself, right? The ocean is calm. It doesn't matter. Kind of desires, any kind of desires that come into the ocean, it doesn't matter. So ocean is compared to a Sthita Prajna, who has control over his mind, who has control over his senses. So any kind of desires that come into him, it doesn't affect him. Right? Contrary, if you see the materialist is like a small river, right? When there is monsoon, there is a lot of flooding. So that similarly, it's like when there is a lot of joyful moment in the life of materialist, he is overwhelmed. He doesn't know what to do, right? And when there is similarly when it is summer and things river dries up, some kind of bad experience or very sad experience in the life of materialist, he is sad, he is morose, right? He doesn't know what to do. So it affects him, right? So, but the materialist is like a small river, while just Sthita Prajna is compared to an ocean. So this is what was spoken in the last verse. Today's verse, yeah. So what I will do is, I'll read out the verse, you can follow after me, yeah. Vihaya kamanya sarvan Pumam charati nispraha Nirmamo nirahankaraha Sashantim adhigacchati Vihaya kamanya sarvan Pumam charati nispraha Nirmamo nirahankaraha Sashantim adhigacchati Vihaya kamanya sarvan Pumam charati nishpraha Nirmamo nirahankaraha Shantim adhigacchati. So we'll go through the word by word meaning. Vihaya, giving up. Kaman, material desires for sense gratification. Yah, who. Sarvan, all. Puman, a person. Charati, lives. Nishpraha, desireless. Nirmama, without a sense of proprietorship. Nirahankaraha, without false ego. Saha, he. Shantim, perfect peace. Adhigacchati, attains. Right? So I'll read out the translation and purport. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta A.C. Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Right. A person who has given up all desires for sense gratification, who lives free from desires, who has given up all sense of proprietorship and is devoid of false ego, he alone can attain real peace. Can someone read the purport, please? Can someone read the... The next slide. Next slide or below the translation. Yeah. Can someone read this out? It's a small purport. Someone also read it out? If not, you can pass it to me. I'll read it out. If that's okay. Purport: to become desireless means not to desire anything for sense gratification. In other words, desire for becoming Krishna conscious is actually desirelessness. To understand one's actual position as eternal servitor of Krishna, without falsely claiming this material body to be oneself and without falsely claiming proprietorship over anything in the world, is the perfect stage of Krishna consciousness. One who is situated in this perfect stage knows that because Krishna is the proprietor of everything, everything must be used for the satisfaction of Krishna. Arjuna did not want to fight for his own satisfaction, own sense satisfaction, but when he became fully Krishna conscious, He fought because Krishna wanted him to fight. For himself, there was no desire to fight. But for Krishna, the same Arjuna fought to his best ability. Real desirelessness is desire for the satisfaction of Krishna, not an artificial attempt to abolish desires. The living entity cannot be desireless or senseless, but he does have to change the quality of the desires. A materially desireless person certainly knows that everything belongs to Krishna. Ishavasyam idam sarva, and therefore he does not falsely claim proprietorship over anything. This transcendental knowledge is based on self-realization, namely knowing perfectly well that every living entity is an eternal part and parcel of Krishna in spiritual identity, and that the eternal position of the living entity is therefore never on the level of Krishna or greater than him. This understanding of Krishna consciousness is the basic principle of real peace. Right. So we'll start. We'll discuss this shloka after the Mangalacharan prayers. Right. Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjanasya Lakhaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Tadanti Swam Padantikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Yuta Padakamanam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamcha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatamritam Tam Sajevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padha Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamcha Namam Vishnupadhaya Krishna Preshaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Kauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyat Deshatarine He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarupyasya Kripa Sindhunaiva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vacharam Pangam Langayate Yat Padam Bhavande Shri Taran Paramananda Mahananda Shri Chaitanya. Okay, so actually in this verse Krishna actually talks about a devotee who actually develops sublime qualities, right? Sublime qualities by serving the Lord, right? He is actually giving a peace formula here, right? Shantim Adhigacchati. So he's giving a peace formula. If you see 5th chapter, the Lord has actually given the entire peace formula. So here is actually a glimpse of what he has done, of what you have to do to attain peace, right? The person who has given up all desires for sense gratification, who lives free from desires. Can anyone tell me, can we have no desires at all? Is it possible? No? Or yes? Not possible. Right. So we can't get to a stage where we don't have desires, right? Soul's quality is to have desires. We will have desires. We can't stop it. So just like heat and light is the quality of fire, sweetness is the quality of sugar. Just like that, desire is the quality of a soul, right? So there is no possibility that we will not have desires because we are not a stone. We are human beings. We will have desires, right? So here, kama, he's mentioning kama, material desires for sense gratification. So kama, there are two meanings: sense enjoyment and काम. काम in Hindi means work. So if you see normal day to day, we all work, right? तुम काम करो, अच्छी तरह काम करो. So people do काम to actually fulfill their काम. That is sense enjoyment, right? So here, what Lord is actually telling is, we have to, how do you become desireless? So like we mentioned that soul has to have desires. So what we need to do is, we have to dovetail whatever desires we have towards Krishna, right? So that is the way to actually channelize your desires, right? When you actually render service to Krishna, that is the way you are actually channelizing your desires to render service to the Lord, right? So that is one thing. That is the way to channelize your desires. Second one is nirmama, without a sense of proprietorship. So the thing is, we have to come to a stage and understand that we don't own anything. We came without anything, we'll go without anything, right? That is the truth. So if I hold on to saying that this is my house, this is my car, this is my wife, this is my kid, my relatives, right? We are living in a wrong notion, right? Nothing is mine, right? Ishavasam idam sarvam, right? It's Upanishad. So Krishna is the proprietor of everything. He owns everything, right? Even this body is not us, right? It's made of panchabhutas. Bhumi apo nalo vayu. Come, buddhi, ahankara. This is all different energies of Krishna. Different 8 energies of Krishna. So even this body is not us. So what we need to do? So once we understand that Krishna is the proprietor, and he says that Sarva Loka Maheshwaram, Aham Param Bij Pradapita, when he says that I am the seed-giving father of everyone. So what we need to do, we need to understand that we are part and parcel of Krishna. When Krishna says Mave Avamsh Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, so we are part and parcel of Krishna. So what we need to do, our constitutional position is that of a servant, right? We are eternal servant of Krishna. So our duty is to actually render service to Krishna, and that is the way we will actually attain peace. That is one way to attain peace, right? And the second, that is the second way to attain peace. And the third way is nir-ahankar, false ego. So false ego is actually bodily conception. So we think we are the body. I am Indian, I am Pakistani, I am American. So this is all bodily concept, right? So anything that is related, then we are actually moving away from the self-realization aspect. We are not body. When Krishna says that we are not body, we are spiritual, right? And we are part and parcel of Krishna. So that is when the ego comes. Ego doesn't come into picture, because if you see in the material world, everyone is looking for puja, la, pratishtha. We want devotion, we want love, we want adoration, we want worship, right? So that is all because of bodily conception. So we don't have the bodily conception. We come into a platform of where we understand that we have the spiritual soul. We don't have that kind of conception, right? Otherwise, someone yells at me, I'm still okay because I'm not the body, I'm the soul. But we theoretically know this. To understand and act in that way, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of sadhana, it takes a lot of reading and hearing from our spiritual masters, right? So what is Sthita Prajna? So who is Sthita Prajna here? One who renounces everything to and attain these qualities. Is he Sthita Prajna? Is that what Sthita Prajna is? One who renounces everything and goes into forest and renders services to the Lord. Is this Sthita Prajna? He is not. So, if you see, we have to, the main thing is that we have to channelize our desires and senses towards worshipping the Lord, rendering service to the Lord. Otherwise, it's very simple for the senses to actually go here and there, right? Just like the senses are compared to 5 different snakes, right? What happens when you close all the snakes in a box and leave it open? You go into 5 different directions, right? We have no control, right? So that's what happens. So if you see, I'll tell you a small story. We can probably relate it to what we're speaking right now. So Sage Vishwamitra, I'm sure everyone knows about Sage Vishwamitra. So Sage Vishwamitra had a tussle with Vasishtha Muni, and there's a backstory that they fought, and Vishwamitra went to perform austerities, right? And he wanted to become Brahma Rishi, right? So what happens is, go on deep meditation, penance, austerity for thousands of years, right? He is doing that, and while he is doing that, to reach Brahma Rishi, there are certain stages. First it is Raja Rishi, Maharishi, and then it is Brahma Rishi. That's the ultimate, right? So thousands of years he's doing his penance, right? And then what happens is, while he's doing his penance, so Indra gets scared, right? He's capturing everything. He's replicating heavens. So Indra is actually very scared. He's feeling very insecure, right? So what Indra does is actually he sends one of his Apsara, Menka. Right? There are three Apsaras, Menka, very famous Menka, Ramba, and Urvashi. Right? They're very beautiful, and they are Apsaras from that is there in the lok, right? In the heaven. So Indra sends them, and so our Vishwamitra is actually meditating on the impersonal feature of the Lord. But the impersonal feature itself is the Lord. Lord's part itself. The Lord says, no, Brahmano Pratishtha Aham, he says. Brahmano Pratishtha Aham. So he is only the effulgence that the Jnanis actually focus on. So he's meditating Om, 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 and then suddenly there is Menka dancing in front of him. And he hears the anklet noise. And it's actually disturbing him. Right? And he's concentrating on this, but he's forced to open his eyes. What he sees a beautiful damsel, right? And he's full into lusty desires. And he sees a beautiful damsel, he's in full lusty desires. And what happens is, in that karma, he actually loses his tapobalam completely. He falls down. So all that he did was completely waste. He falls down again, he goes on to lead his material life with Menka, they have a kid, and then later on he realizes, so again I have to go back and to continue my austerities. Again, just because of one thing, that is eyes, he saw Menka. I mean, it was ears. He heard the anklet, and that's when he opened. So one sense can actually take you away from everything, right? So again, he goes on to his deep meditation. He goes on back. This time, I'm not going to do this mistake, and he goes on. So this time again, he's continuing his penance for another thousands of years, and again Indra is scared. So Indra is scared, and again now he sends his second Apsara, that is Ramba. So Ramba comes, and Vishwamitra is actually doing his meditation and his austerity, and Ramba actually throws the Parijat flowers on him, right? And Vishwamitra is actually smelling those flowers. Parijata, at this time, the Parijata actually takes a long time to come. It's only found after so many years only it comes. So he opens his eyes to see what happens. And then he sees Ramba. Then he says, "You beautiful lady, I know what you are here for. But this time, I won't fall for this." And actually, he curses her to become stone. So again, what happens here is, he gets angry. Right? So this is because of one sense, which is the nose. He smelled the Parijat flowers, he opened his eyes and he saw Ramba. And again, he lost Tapobalam just because of anger. Right? So this is what happens when you actually don't channelize your energy. So there's a later story that Vishwamitra actually became a Brahma Rishi when he became a devotee of Lord Ram also. So that's a different story. But what we have to understand from this is that if you don't have control over our mind and senses, and any kind of renunciation of that, leaving everything, leaving the material world and going to forest, it doesn't help at all. There's another story which is very from Srimad Bhagavatam. It's about King Priyavrat. I'm not sure if you all heard about King Priyavrat. Right? This is a beautiful story. This is very relatable to whatever we are speaking today. Right? So how we have to, who is the real Sthita Prajna, we'll come to know when we hear this story. So King Priyavrat is actually the son of Swayambhu Manu. Right? So Swayambhu Manu is the son of Lord Brahma, who is called Swayambhu. Right? So Lord Brahma is called Swayambhu because he has no material father or mother. He came from Lord Narayana. Right? So that is why he is called Swayambhu, and his son is called Swayambhu Manu. Right? So Swayambhu Manu had two sons, that is King Priyavrat and King Uttanapad. So King Priyavrat was the elder son. But King Priyavrat, from a very young age, he had this inclination towards renouncing everything. Right? Renouncing everything, and he wanted to go into the forest and serve the Lord. So as a elder brother, he did that, and Swayambhu Manu had to agree to it. So King Priyavrat actually went into Gandhamadana mountains to actually do his austerities. And then what happens? Someone has to manage the world, right? The earthly kingdom, someone has to manage. So he puts his younger son, King Uttanapad. So King Uttanapad is the father of Dhruva. Everyone knows Dhruva, right? So Dhruva is very famous. So King Uttanapad, there is Dhruva, and there are various descendants that came into picture. There is King Prithus, the incarnation of Lord himself. There is King Vena. Then there is Prachina Parishad who came, and then there was his sons Prachetas who came. And the Prachetas, there were 10 Prachetas, and they all want to renounce themselves. So now what happens? Everyone wants to renounce themselves. There is no one to rule the world. So again, Swayambhu Manu is in a fix that who is going to rule, right? There is no kingdom. There is no king for this kingdom. Someone has to rule, right? So what happens is, so Swayambhu Manu realizes there is my son is there, Priyavrat, but it's very difficult to get him, because one of the reasons to get not able to get him is because his spiritual master is Narad Muni, and Narad Muni. And whoever goes under the shelter of Narad Muni is actually very difficult to get him back to the material world. It's practically impossible to get someone who is under the sharan of Narad Muni. So Swayambhu Manu actually thinks, how do I get him? And he goes into Gandhamadana mountains and actually requests his son Priyavrat, son, can you please come back and look after the worldly matter? We need a king. Nobody is there to rule the world, right? We need a king to actually have someone who tells the praja what to do, to follow the dharma, various things. King is the one who actually leads by example. And there is no king, everything in the society will go haywire. And Priyavrat says, no, I'm not coming into the material world. It takes me completely away from my spiritual duties that I have. I want to render service to Lord, and this material world is actually a distraction for me. I don't want to do it. So Swayambhu Manu comes back. So Brahma actually comes to know that this is the situation. And Brahma is actually the grandfather of Priyavrat, right? Brahma is also the father of Narad Muni. So actually Swayambhu Manu and Narad Muni are brothers. So Brahma takes this into his hands. He says that I will have to interfere here, otherwise he won't listen. And Brahma actually goes into Gandhamadana mountains to actually talk to Priyavrat. So that's when Brahma actually he puts forward various explanations to Priyavrat as to why he should come back and rule the world and not renounce, right? So he tells Priyavrat, see, just by not having any control over senses and mind and just renouncing yourself and going into the forest, it's like leaving one wife behind and going with 6 other wives in the forest, right? 6 other wives meaning one wife is mind and the 5 other wives are the senses, the 5 senses, right? And you know what sense can do. It comes into contact with sense objects, that's it. It's gone. You have no control over it. So that's what Brahma was actually trying to convey to Priyavrat. So we should have control over our mind and senses. And then that is easy to even live in the material world and offer services to the Lord by not getting affected at all. So then it is just like, there are so many people, sadhus and people with matted hair, we see. So externally, they look where sannyasi, externally they will look like they have renounced everything, they are leading an austere life. But within themselves, they have so much desire for sense gratification, right? We see so many spiritualists actually falling also, right? Because of this. Because there are so many, because it is not about external looks, right? It is something about you have to have control over your mind and senses, right? Then you can actually do your services, whether you are in material world or in your forest life or renounced life, right? So if you see a monkey, any person sees a monkey, how does a monkey live? It lives on the branches of the tree. What does it eat? Roots and fruits. What does it wear? It doesn't wear anything. So if you see, to look at, it leads a very renounced life. Oh, see a monkey, such a renounced life. Huh? No, not eating anything, not wearing anything, just living on the trees. But actually if you see, monkey is an animal with the most amount of sense gratification. From the time it's born till it dies, from day till night, it is full of sense gratification, right? It is unfortunate that it doesn't have an apt body to actually fulfill all the sense gratification. So that is called Markata Vairagya. So any kind of Vairagya, any kind of renunciation in that manner is called Markata Vairagya, right? And then then Brahma actually goes on to actually talk about various things. There is actually a shloka from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Srila Rupa Goswami. It says, Prapanchikritya bhutya hari sambandhu vastuna mamukshabhi parityago vairagyam falgu katyate. So it means when persons eager to achieve liberation renounce things related to Supreme Personality of Godhead, thinking them to be material, their renunciation is called incomplete. Say, so what we mean that if a person thinks that if he can renounce anything related to Hari Sambandhina Vastu, anything related to Hari, what is related to Hari? Everything is related to Hari, right? So if a person thinks, if I have on the pretext of renouncing, and he leaves all the material things, it is not called the right Vairagya, it is not the right renunciation, it is called Falgu Vairagya. Now what is Falgu? Where does Falgu, the word, come from? The Falgu is actually a river. In Bihar, in Gaya, there is a river called Falgu, right? So Falgu is a river, and on top of that there is complete sand. So actually if it is a new person, if it's me who's coming and seeing the Falgu river, I will not know that it's a river. I'll just step into it and I'll drown. And actually it's not a sand. It has got water beneath, right? So that's called Falgu Vairagya, just to show. Right? So that's where the verse comes from, that's where the word comes from, Falgu Vairagya. And Rupa Goswami actually goes on to explain in the next verse, Anasaktasya Vishayan Yatharam Upayunjatana Virbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yuktam Vairagyam Uchyate. The things should be accepted for Lord service and not for personal sense gratification. If one accepts something without attachment and accepts it because it is related to Krishna, one's renunciation is called Yukta Vairagya. So this is called the correct renunciation. When we understand, come to a stage that is, we are talking about Nirmama and Nirankara, come to a stage where we know we are not the proprietors, we are not the body, we are the spirit soul. We come to an understanding that everything that belongs to Lord, that everything that we have in this material world belongs to Lord. So what happens naturally, we have to use it in the service of the Lord, right? That is how it is. So what happens if I give you a material example, we are living in a rented house with a fully furnished house. I'm living, and at the end of the month I have to pay rent, right, to the tenant. That is the way it is because I have used the service. So we have to know that whatever we have in our material world, God has actually given us on a temporary basis to take care of things. Your family, your relatives, your friends, right? You have to temporarily take care of them. That is your duty. And you have to take care in a detached manner and use them and make them also render service to Krishna. That is the right way, right? That is the right Vairagya. Not running away from everything and going into forest and not having control over your mind and senses. That is not renunciation. So Yukta Vairagyam Uchyate, this is the way you should do. So there are a lot of, so if you see, there is another story of, what is the time now? Anyone knows any idea? What is the time? 7:20, okay. I think we can go over one more story which is nice. So so this is Yukta Vairagya. This is actually Lord Brahma actually explains a lot of things as to why he has to come back and rule over the world. So if you see, and Priyavat is actually convinced, he says, okay, fine, I think Lord Brahma, who is actually a worshipable person, and he is also a devotee of the Lord, right? And what Lord Brahma is telling that these all Vedic injunctions that are given to us by the Lord, it is for us to follow. The world has to have a leader, and we have to follow, and people follow by example, right? We have to have leader just like how a cow is actually has a rope through his nostril and is pulled, right? Similar way, these instructions are like that. Just like a blind man is pulled by someone who is actually has eyes, right? So that's the way, we're following the Vedic instructions and following going according to the Lord's plan. So that is how it is. Based on this, Priyavat actually has no resentment when Brahma actually tells and he agrees. There is no resentment in Narada Muni also, saying that Narada Muni is thinking, I spent so much of time actually getting him to get this into this life. Now this Lord Brahma is my father is actually taking him away, telling him to rule over material world. But Narada Muni also understands this is the kind of responsibilities and duty he has to follow as a king, right? He has to stay in the Grihastha ashram, he has to stay in the material world and then look after his praja, ensure that they are following the dharma, right? So Priyavat actually follows, there is no resentment from his side or Narada Muni's side. On the contrary, if I talk about another devotee, I would have heard about Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur, 500 years ago in West Bengal, there was a great devotee, Haridas Thakur. He was actually born in a Muslim family and he was a great devotee of Lord Krishna. So he used to chant the holy names of Lord 3 lakh times in a day, 3 lakh times, right? And we struggle here, right? Imagine Haridas Thakur. So Haridas Thakur was a great devotee So there was one Mr. Ramchandra Khan who was very envious of Haridas Thakur. He somehow wanted to malign the name of Haridas Thakur. Somehow wanted to ensure that Haridas Thakur name is characterless. He wants to get that name. So what he does, he actually goes into the marketplace, he finds out the best prostitute, right? He goes, talks to her and says that you have to go to this particular person. He is just showing that he's a renounced man, he's a great devotee, people are actually following him. I want to ensure that we have to show that he's a characterless person. And he tells the prostitute to actually go to this Haridas Thakur, yeah? And to actually woo him and seduce him. So this prostitute says okay, and she goes to Haridas Thakur. In the evening she goes, oh Haridas Thakur, you have such a nice body, blooming body, right? It's time for us to actually unite and enjoy yourself. So Haridas Thakur says, yeah, sure, we can do that, but I have to finish my chanting, right? Can you wait till that? I'll finish my chanting and then after that, whatever you want, I'm ready for that. So she says, okay, fine. So Haridas Thakur actually chants and the whole night he is chanting and she is waiting. The next day the sun rises and it's time. She says, I have to go now. I'll again freshen up. I'll come in the evening again. He says, okay, fine, no problem. Again she comes and the same thing follows. For the next 3 days, she is actually listening to Harinam, right? Harinam from a very exalted devotee, that is Haridas Thakur. On the 4th day, the tears starts coming from her eyes and she is so attached to Harinam, right? Listening from a pure devotee and who is chanting Lord's name. And she falls at his feet and she says, please forgive me. I was actually told by Ramchandra Khan to actually prove that you are a characterless person. I understand your position. Please forgive me. And actually Haridas Thakur says that I know what you had come for and I forgive you. I'll give you Diksha, and he gives the Harinam to her. And that's when she also becomes one of the great devotees. She is also one of the great spiritual acharyas actually in one of the places called Benapur, and there were a lot of Krishna conscious people there. Because they followed her. And so this is what, because Haridas Thakur says that nobody can touch me because I am actually in the shelter of Lord Krishna, right? So once you are in the shelter of Lord Krishna, there is nothing that anyone can do. So that is what we need to do. So from this we have to understand that renouncing everything is not the right way. Even Srila Prabhupada says that there are certain spiritualists, if someone offers them donation, they'll say, no, this is Maya. I won't touch it, right? They won't touch it at all. And they move away. But that is not the right way. Srila Prabhupada says that if someone gives me donation, I will take it. Because that is Lakshmi. And what is the position of Lakshmi? Yeah, Lakshmi Devi is always serving Lord Narayana. Right? Lakshmi Sahasra Sevyamanam Govinda Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Sahasra Lakshmis are actually serving Lord in Vaikuntha. So how can he actually reject? You can't. These are all Shakti of the Shaktiman. That is the Lord. These are all his energies. So we should use this energy in the service of the Lord itself. So we can't say because we won't use. So Srila Prabhupada says, I will use it. I will use it not for my own sense gratification. I will use it for the service of the Lord. I'll build big temples for the Lord. I'll do elaborate worship for the Lord. So this is what we need to do. We need to channelize our desires towards worshipping the Lord, and we can do it on a daily basis. So simple thing that Srila Prabhupada has actually told us to actually do chanting, right? Which is actually the Yuga Dharma. Yeah, Kritaya Dhyayato Vishnu Tretayam Yadato Makhe Dwapare Paricharyam Kalo Tat Harikirtana. So Kritaya Dhyayato Vishnu. In Satya Yuga, it was meditating on Vishnu. Yeah, Tretayam Yajato Makhe, it was Yagna. Yeah, in Treta Yuga it was elaborate yagna you have to do for coming to a position of self-realization. And Dwapare Paricharyam. So Dwapara Yuga, it was elaborate temple worship. Right? That's what we need to do. In Dwapara Yuga, that was they did. And in Kali Yuga, what we have to do? Sankirtana. That is what we need to do. And that is very simple process. Lord has actually given us these instructions because He is the creator. He is the one, He is our Father, right? He knows that in this Kali Yuga, people will be Manda Sumanda, very lazy, no remembrance, right? What can they do? Can we meditate for 5 minutes, 10 minutes? It's very tough. Meditate on nothingness, it's so tough, you'll fall asleep. You will fall sleepy. So he says, it's Hari Kirtana mentioned for these people in Kali Yuga. So it's very simple. And it's very difficult for us to do it also. Right? Such a simple thing he has given. Still we find it very difficult to get up early in the morning and spend some time chanting the holy names of the Lord. The holy names of the Lord we might think that, we have a notion that anything that is difficult is the best thing. Chanting the Lord's name is so simple, right? Probably won't have that kind of effect. The meditation is very tough. That will have some kind of effect. So that is the notion people have, right? But the potency of the Lord's name, we don't know about the potency of the Lord's name. It is Lord Himself. Yeah, Golokera Premadhana it is. From Goloka only we have got this name, right? So, Kali Kale Nama Rupe Krishna Avatar. So what is in Kali Kal? Nama Rup is Krishna Avatar. The Naam of Krishna is the Avatar. And all we have to do is chant. Chant, and there is nothing that you have. It's very simple. Simple in the sense we should make a conscious endeavor to actually chant right. So chanting is when we actually chant the Lord's name, all you need to do is hear, right? Hear the words that are coming out from our mouth. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So that is the only thing you have to do. 16 syllables you have to hear. Tell your mind to actually only listen to these 16 syllables and nothing else, right? This is the meditation, mantra meditation that we do. This will get you a level where Krishna says that you will come to a level that is beyond all your senses and you can control your mind and senses. So this is all I had to speak about this particular shloka. Now if you have any comments or any reflections, any questions, please feel free to ask. Yeah.
In spirituality there are so many mantras like Gayatri mantra, Om Ganpati Namah. But why Hare Krishna, Hare Ram is chanting a mantra called as Mahamantra?
Right. So you're right, there are various mantras. That's one of the reasons people are actually confused also. Right? So if you see Gayatri mantra, there are certain ways to actually chant the Gayatri mantra. You or me can't chant the Gayatri mantra. There are various rules to chant so many mantras. So Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which is called Mahamantra for various reasons. In Kali Santana Upanishad, it is mentioned that Hare Krishna Mahamantra is the only mantra that can deliver people in the age of Kali. There is a conversation between Brahma and Narad Muni. So Narad Muni is actually contemplating as to how will Kali Yuga people come to a point of self-realization and go back to Godhead. Right? So Brahma says, I have actually read the whole Vedas, I read everything, all the Upanishads, all the Puranas. The only thing I could find is this 16 syllables. That is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So these are the 16, that's one of the reasons it's called Mahamantra. And Krishna also came as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in 500 years back in West Bengal. So Krishna Varnam Tushar Krishnam, Sango Pangastra. So that is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna himself, but not come in the form of Krishna. Right? Krishna was dark, is the color of the monsoon cloud, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came as a devotee. Krishna, who came as a devotee, to show us how devotional service should be done. Right? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also preached Hare Krishna is the Mahamantra for Kali Yuga, for people to deliver themselves in Kali Yuga. So that's one of the reasons. Even there are various Puranas, Brahmanaradi Purana also, Kali Santana Upanishad. So these are various. So everything that we do, everything that is ISKCON, which follows Brahma Madhava Gaudiya Sampradaya, is based on scriptures. It is not based on someone's speculations or mental calculations. Nothing. So Srila Prabhupada has actually taken everything from the scriptures and presented it to us. So if you see, that is one of the reasons Srila Prabhupada, who being exalted devotee, such a pure devotee, who could make so many devotees from rest of the world. There were so many preachers, right, who went from India to the Western world. Did they make anyone Krishna devotee? They would have done big talks. This is that. But did they change anyone's life? You see so many foreigners in Russia, in China, we have even temples in Pakistan. This is because a pure devotee went there, who listened to his spiritual master and who had this endeavor that he wanted to give Harinam to everyone. And this just changed everyone's life. If you see the hippies who were into everything, gambling, drug addiction, illicit sex. They left everything. And they became Krishna devotees, leading a pure life. It is because a pure devotee went with the instructions of the Lord. And nothing else. He didn't have any personal agenda. So we should be thankful to Srila Prabhupada that we are in this community, ISKCON community, the small house that he has built for all of us, to actually associate with like-minded people and talk about Krishna, give Krishna Nam to everyone. So it is not a sectarian thing. So Krishna's name is accessible to everyone. Yeah, Krishna doesn't say I'm a Hindu god or a Muslim god or a Christian god, right? He is God. That's what he says, right? So it is free for everyone. Anyone can chant. Yeah.
In Kurukshetra, Krishna told on Bhagavad Gita to only Arjuna. Only Arjuna, right?
No. So Krishna, not just Arjuna, there was actually a lot of people who actually listened to Bhagavad Gita. There was Sanjaya who was actually seeing the war through his divine eyes, who was actually explaining to Dhritarashtra. He was the one. There was Hanuman who was on the chariot of Arjuna, who listened to Bhagavad Gita. And this is not the first time that Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says in fact, chapter 4, that I have given this knowledge to Sun God millions of years ago. Vivaswan. He has given this knowledge millions of years ago. And due to the descendants that it was not followed properly, the chain was broken. So I had to come back again. I had to deliver it to you. So it was the end of the Dwapar Yuga. It is for the Dwapar Yuga people, and it is for Kali Yuga people, for Kali Yuga people to follow. So there were a lot of people who actually, and it was not Arjuna who actually listened to Bhagavad Gita first. It was during the creation itself when Krishna actually gave it to Vivaswan. If there are no questions, we can stop. Yeah? Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Come here, bro.